Jaya Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Jaya Sri Jaya Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Jaya Jaya Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Jaya Sri Krishna Caitanya Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Gopala Govindara Srimad Sudhana Gopala Govindara Gopala Govindara Srimad Madhusudana Adhigari Gopina Caitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Vaishnava Rupa Sanatana Bhagada Gunana Surup Susana Jiva Gopala Bhakta Asada Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Govardhana Dhari ki jai, Sri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Nitai Gaur. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam So today we are reading Chaitanya Caritamrita. This is PhD in devotional service. So some of us may find ourselves out of place. This is too elevated. However, so it's Adi-lila chapter 11, text 13. Okay? Yeah? Sri Rama Dasa Arang Gadadara Dasa Sri Rama Dasa Arang Gadadara Das Chaitanya Goswami Bhaktarahe Tandrabhas Caitanya Goshanira Bhaktarahe Tandrabhas Sri Ram Dasara Gadadhara Das Caitanya Goshanira Bhaktarahe Tandrabhas Word by word. Sri Ramadasa of the name Sri Ramdas. Ara and Gadadhara Das of the name Gadadhara Das. Caitanya Goshanira of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakta, devotees. Rahe, stay. Tanra Pasha, with him. Translation, please repeat. Two devotees of Lord Chaitanya, named Sri Ram Das and Gadadhar Das, always live with Sri Virabhadra Goswami. Two devotees of Lord Chaitanya named Sri Ram Das and Gadadhar Das always live with Sri Virabhadra Goswami. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Ram Das, later known as Abhiram Thakur, was one of the 12 Gopalas, cowherd boyfriends of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The Gaura Ganodesha Dipika, verse 126, states that Sri Ram Das was formerly Sridham. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, chapter 4, there is a description of Srila Abhiram Thakur. By the order of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Abhiram Thakur became a great acharya and preacher of the Chaitanya cult of devotional service. He was a very influential personality, and non-devotees were very much afraid of him. Empowered by Sri Nityananda Prabhu, he was always in ecstasy and was extremely kind to all fallen souls. It is said that if he offered obeisances to any stone other than a Shalagram Shila, it would immediately fracture. 10 miles southwest of the railway station, Champadanga, on the narrow gauge railway line from Howrah in Calcutta to Amta, a village in the Hooghly district, is a small town named Kanakula Krishnanagar, where the temple of Abhiram Thakur is situated. During the rainy season, when this area is inundated with water, people must go there by another line, which is now called the Southeastern Railway. On this line there is a station named Kolagata, from which one has to go by steamer to Ranichaka. 7.5 miles north of Ranichaka is Kanakula. The temple of Abhiram Thakur is situated in Krishnanagar, which is near the Kula bank of the Kana Dwarakeshwara river. Therefore, this place is celebrated as Kanakula Krishnanagar. Outside of the temple is a Bakula tree. This place is known as Siddha Bakula Kunja. It is said that when Abhiram Thakur came here, he sat down under this tree. In Kanakula Krishnanagar, there is a big fair held every year in the month of Chaitra, March, April, on the Krishna Saptami, the 7th day of the dark moon. Many hundreds and thousands of people gather for this festival. The temple of Abhiram Thakur has a very old history. The deity in the temple is known as Gopinath. There are many Sevite families living near the temple. It is said that Abhiram Thakur had a whip, and that whoever he touched with it would immediately become an elevated devotee of Krishna. Among his many disciples, Sriman Srinivasacharya was the most famous and the most dear. but it is doubtful that he was his initiated disciple. Mama Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, this book is very special in our line. In fact, every book, the book that Srila Prabhupada, the books that Srila Prabhupada produced are a gift of love. He offered his Bhagavad Gita to whom? Baladev Vijayabhushan, one of the great acharyas. Because of his contribution to the Vaishnava Siddhanta, he offered Srimad Bhagavatam to whom? To whom he offered Srimad Bhagavatam? No? To his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He offered the Krishna book. You know? His father, Gaur Mohanji. And every book he offered to someone as a gift of love. Just like when, what's it called? Valentine's Day comes around, right? Big chocolate sales. So the lovers buy chocolates for each other and roses and things like that. So all these books are, we may say, nothing else but gifts of love that Srila Prabhupada prepared for his superiors, for his father, for the devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, etc. So what do we find when we open a box of chocolates? I don't like chocolates, I don't eat chocolates, so I'm making a point here. I don't want to go into that. But the point is that we find what is advertised. So when we open these books, we need to look for those things that are the essence of what Prabhupada came to give. Love for Krishna. So Krishna explains in the Gita that no one can understand him except those who have love for him. Bhaktimama vijnanati. The Gita is like a mountain. So the peak of the mountain is chapter 9 and chapter 10. 2 peaks. And in chapter 9, what's the title of chapter 9? We asked this the other day, but just... Chapter 9? Bhakti Shastri? Come on. The most confidential knowledge. So Prabhupada explains in those purports, in the early purports, first verse and second verse, that there's confidential knowledge, there's more confidential knowledge, and there's most confidential knowledge. So this is most confidential knowledge. This is what he's referring to. So what is that most confidential knowledge? Love, bhakti. And in chapter 10, we find the essence of the Gita, the chapter slokis, right? Chapter 10 takes 8, 9, 10, and 11, right? So if you don't have time to read the 700 verses, at least let's read those 4 verses, right? And the interesting thing about these 4 verses is that half of the first verse, Krishna talked about himself, right? What does he say? Aham sarvasya prabhu. Everything comes from me. Matah sarvam prabhardate. Everything is manifested from me. And then after that, 3.5 verses are dedicated to the devotees. Right? That's if we think about it, that's the essence of Krishna's presentation, his devotees. Right? So here in Caitanya Caritamrita, we find plenty of devotees. that have that level of love for Krishna. So Ram Das Abhiram, he is a famous devotee, and you can find so many nice lectures of the devotees, advanced, realized. But he had this, Prabhupada mentions this whip. And so my spiritual master, Srila Jayapataka Maharaj, he gives this class, many classes about this pastime, and he makes this loud noise, and he's like whipping the whip, as we say, right? So somebody comes and he wants to give you mercy, so he, whips you, right? Imagine if somebody comes and gets a whip or a belt and, right? And what would you do? Right? But in this case, what happened? People will get love of Godhead, become ecstatic. Right? So why? I remember Admatata Prabhu, the famous Mayapur Gurukul teacher, decades ago, he used to say, if we want to learn something, we need to learn 3 things about that something. Why, how, and what for. I remember. That was his first lesson. Why, how, and what for. Why do we read these books? Why do we have to hear about these great devotees? There is a reason. There is a reason. Why are you here? Why are we here? Right? Anybody can share? Why are we here? It can be a word. Could be mercy. Good. Good.
We love Krishna.
Which one?
We love Krishna.
We love Krishna. Good. Good.
Best life.
What?
Best life.
Best life. Good. Anyone else? Why are we here? Prasad. Mercy.
We want to learn to love Krishna and serve Him.
Yeah.
And free ourselves from this cycle of birth.
Right. True.
We're trying to love Krishna.
You're trying to love Krishna. Okay. Madhuri?
Trying to understand Krishna.
Trying to understand Krishna. Yeah. Prabhu? Okay. Association. Yeah. The same? Repeat. So why are we here? We have to ask ourselves, why are we here? Because the answers to those questions, now let's get a little deeper, or the quality of those answers, is what will determine how long we will be here. Right? How many, some of you have been around and have seen so many people come and go, right? Come and go. Many, many, many. Onek. Many, many. Too many. But that's not the intention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants us to come and stay. Right? That's the motto. Lord Nityananda, what's the title of the chapter? I mentioned it. Telling you memory. That's why I think these things are there, recording. What's the title of the chapter? Except Prabhu, because he knows. What's the title of the chapter? This chapter, yeah. This chapter. That's a good one. Expansion of who?
Of the brand.
Nityananda. Expansion of Nityananda. So Vasu Prabhu was telling me, watch this video, watch that, read this. You know, he's so much into pastimes. I was trying yesterday, I watched a few classes on this. So nectarian. But let's backpedal a little, back to the basics, as it is said sometimes in schooling. Right? Who is Lord Nityananda? I know that you will provide wonderful answers. But I invite you, all of us, sometimes when we read these pastimes, whether it's Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Caritamrita, or even Prabhupada's Lilamrita, you know, sometimes when we read these pastimes, it becomes like something that happened how many years ago? This is over 500 years, correct? Bhagavatam, God knows. Thousands of years, ages, yugas. So sometimes these reading of the past things, although they are purifying janma, karma, chamedivyan, they are spiritual. Nevertheless, they can be somewhat distant. I know the past time. I heard it 1,000 times. So what? Yeah, my heart surely has been purified. But the important thing, and I learned this from some of my seniors, that the important thing is what's your role. I remember once, Puriyan Prabhu's wife, Jagatarini Mataji, some of you may know, she came to Mayapur, and it was so surprising because she always stays in Vrindavan, so it was so surprising to see her there. So I asked her, Mataji, what's your realization of Mayapur? No? You're a Vrindavan person. Why? How? What's your? And she said this wonderful analogy that I stuck in my head. She said that Mayapur, or Lord Chaitanya's movement for that matter, is like a big stage, right? Sometimes these movies are filmed, and you have the props and you have the actors, right? And the director, the filming company gets all these people acting and everything is there, and you know. And then you have the extras, right? Sometimes there's battles and things like that. You have a lot of extras, right? People are paid, you know, I don't know, $10, $20 or something just to be there and just to make bulk kind of thing. So Mataji was explaining to me that that's what Lord Chaitanya has done. She said, why am I here? She said, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be in this movement. I don't deserve to be in Mayapur or Vrindavan, you know. But somehow I'm here because Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they are just getting everyone. Just come and stay there. No, you don't have to do much. Just stay there. So this movement of Sankirtan movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, has that mercy. We just have to come, and Prabhupada did give that example. He said that this movement is like a electric escalator, right? And what is that you have to do? You just stay there, right? You have the electric escalator, you just have to stay there, no, stand there. That's all what you have to do. And this movement will take you. So, the purpose of reading these books, the purpose of hearing about these devotees, is because we become inspired. Right? We become inspired to do what? To take more prasadam? To do? More service. Yeah. What else? We become inspired to do. What you become inspired to. Let's not be just theoretical or philosophical about it, but to be more? Okay. What?
To chant and be happy.
Chant and be happy.
To do your sadhana with knowledge as well. Just conscious of what you're doing and why.
Right. Good. Srinanda Maharaj says to chant Hare Krishna, don't cry. Before being happy, don't cry. It's very clever. So yeah, we hear all these things because we become inspired. And why we become inspired? Ravinda Swarupa explains in one of his seminars. Because we are full of doubts. Because we doubted, we came to this material world. And in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us some warnings at the end of chapter 2, 3 and 4, if we read scrutinizingly. In chapter 2, he warns us about 3 false things. False sense of proprietorship, false sense gratification. What's the other one? False identification. Right? We are not the body. So he warns us about that. If you read there, then connect it with what Prabhupada is saying. In chapter 3, he gives us a very important warning. What is that warning? Gita fans? At the end of chapter 3, he talks about what Prabhupada called Mr. Lust. That's the warning that Krishna gives us. Be careful, be careful. Kama esha, krodha esha. Right? Be careful. Right? And at the end of chapter 4, interesting, he gives us another warning. You know what's that warning about? Asamsaya. Become free from doubt. That's the warning. So knowledge has the purpose of eradicate what Prabhupada used to call misgivings, which is doubts. So here we are, in front of Radha and Krishna, Krishna Balaram, Gauranitai, in front of Srila Prabhupada and his representatives. And we're doubting. Right? Are you with me? Yeah? So we're trying to eradicate those doubts. And how we eradicate those doubts? By hearing about people who didn't have doubts. You know the before and after? You know, have you seen those? I don't know now it's popular. I think it's a little politically incorrect now. But anyway, I remember many years back, before and after. You get generally a lady very rounded, right? And the next side, right? Very slim. The same person, same face. Buy this powder, take these pills. Before and after. Right? All kinds of things. Not only with the ladies. People losing their hair and so many things I've seen before and after. So the before is, here we are us. Yamaha Prabhu, spiritual master in GBC, he used to say, all what it's missing in those descriptions is our, the passport photos. When you see all those descriptions, that's me. So that's the reason why we do it. That's why we hear about these great devotees. That's one thing. How to hear. The beginning of Bhagavatam, particularly in first canto, second chapter. The sages, Shaunak Rishi and Sutta Goswami, they explain how we have to hear. There's a quality to our hearing, right? All of you japa chanters, you know what it is to chant backgrounds, Some of us, we're experts in those, chanting and then the phone and chatting and maybe reading something and, everything is so important, but my chanting, the sound. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually explains, and how does it say at the end of the 10 offenses or 11 offenses? It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. And why is that? Because our attention has been distracted from Krishna, and therefore we need to, focus our attention to Krishna's name, to Krishna's prasadam, to Krishna's devotees, to Krishna's scriptures, words, Gita, etc., and pastimes. That's why. So, how to do it? We have to do it very attentively. And if we do it attentively, what happens? The what for? Right? What's the result? What happens if we listen attentively to Bhagavatam? Huh? You develop a taste, and when you develop a taste, what happens? This is Prabhupada's statement. It's in his purpose, and many times he said this. What happens? Huh? Become fully Krishna conscious. That's true. Anyone else?
No doubts.
No doubts. Good one. Yes. Something happens.
I'd say the heart changes.
The heart changes. Yeah, everything's there.
Lose the material desire.
Yes, all that is there. But then after all that, what happens?
Blissful.
Blissful? Why?
Well, there is a verse that said that Krishna, or God, will be situated in your heart.
Yeah.
Attentive attention. Right?
Yeah. One time, Jananivas Prabhu, many moons ago, 20-something years, he came to Malaysia, remember? And he was touring. I think it was the first time that he left India anyway. So I remember he was giving the class, Bhagavatam class, and someone asked him. Everyone wanted to hear from him. He was already a celebrity at that time. And a devotee asked him, Prabhu, what is Krishna consciousness? What is Krishna consciousness? And he said this. He's in regard to what Prabhupada said. He said, if somebody knocks on your door, right? Somebody knocks on your door, what do? You go and open the door. When you open the door, that person who was knocking your door is Krishna. Whatever you do, that's Krishna consciousness. I remember. So imagine that. Krishna knocks on your door, and then you open, and there is Krishna. What would you do? What would you do? Right? Yeah. You're my guest. Go for it. So that's the mood. Prabhupada said, Bhagavatam says, isn't the purpose of the Bhagavatam? If we listen attentively Bhagavatam, you will see Krishna face to face. Right? Face to face. That's what he said. Bhagavatam will happen. Right? You will see Krishna face to face. So that's why we are here. Because we want to see Krishna. Like that. You remember when you joined? And the first time somebody talked to you about Krishna? I don't know your pastimes. I know mine. Mine are not pastimes, are disasters, but anyway. But remember the first time? Huh? How crazy it sounded? I don't know for you, Krishna, sorry, but I'm just trying to be honest here. My best friend came to my place, my house, and he told me, I found God. I thought, oh my God, what did you take, mate? Come on. It's enough. And he's blue. He's a little child. And he plays the flute of all instruments. What are you on, man? Come on, let go of that. I still remember. So all my doubts were just, this is, So why are we here? Why do we listen? How do we listen? And what do we get? Okay, that's our sequence. The last thing I wanted to say, that I was mentioning it, but maybe some of you forgot. So what's your role? We hear these pastimes, right? Caitanya, Caritamrita, Lilamrita, Bhagavatam, Gita. Some of you are reading even books which are deeper and higher, right? And this is not a patronizing statement. This is just, the first person who listens when you talk is yourself. So, right? So when we speak something, we should also listen to it. What is our role? What is my relationship to Lord Nityananda, to Gaura-Nitai, to the deities? What is my relationship to Prabhupada? Yeah, this devotee did this and that devotee did that, and we know the pastimes and we know so many details of the pastimes. But what am I doing? Right? I'm not saying that you're not doing. Please don't curse me. This is just, what are we doing? That's the thing. What are we doing? Who's Lord Nityananda? I asked in the beginning. Right? So we're going to wrap it up with this question. Who's Lord Nityananda for you? Anyone wants to share? That you know. You don't have to really disclose your heart in public. Confidential. Anybody? Who's Lord Nityananda? It could be a line, a word, half a line or whatever. The kindest friend. Wow, good. Anyone else?
Incarnation of Balaram.
The incarnation of Balaram. Yes. Okay. Transcendental personality who gave the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Anyone?
He's the most merciful.
The most merciful. Oh, that's a good one. Adi Guru. How do you know he's the most merciful? No, no, I know that you know, but that's the.
Let them get away.
Yeah,
What they did in
yeah. Prabhupada said in that purport, right, there were 2 Jagai Madhais in Navadvip. Now, how many are there? Many. So here we are. Here we are. That is our role in this pastime. Right? You see, Prabhupada gave us Gita, basically, Gita, Bhagavatam, Caritamrita, right? And many other corollary teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It was a summary of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, obviously. What else? Upadeshamrita, Shishupanishad, Nectar of Devotion, etc. Right? So he gave these 3 books, central. Prabhupada said primary is Gita, then secondary and university is Bhagavatam, right? And PhD is this, master's PhD. And Krishna explains in the Gita many things, and he says to Mother Lakshmi, one word, I mentioned this 2-3 days ago, one word can transform our life. Prabhupada did say that in the famous video of these good books, these good books, these good books. But, so, anybody memorizes Gita verses? Yeah? Some of you? Yeah? Right? This reminds me, Prabhupada was very proud of his Western devotees. But in those days, when the movement started, actually quite into it, there were not many books. And the devotees were so busy, that was another thing. The devotees didn't have time to read. What to speak of memorizing things, right? But Prabhupada often, whenever he had interviews, classes, etc., he will have a devotee with some of his books, particularly the Gita. Have you seen in the conversations? What is that verse? And then the devotee, right? So one time there were these, ministers or judge or something, some important people. And they were talking to Prabhupada in Mayapur. So one of the Matis came in and he said to them, look, these Westerners, now they are experts in Sanskrit. And this Mati tells the story, I forgot her name, tells the story that her heart sank because she didn't know one verse. Sometimes, And she could see where Prabhupada was going, and then Prabhupada said to her, recite one mantra. And then she goes, Samsaradhavana lalita loka tranaya karunyagana Bande Guru Sri Charana. And Prabhupada said, you see, so happy. And she's like, oh my, somehow. So Prabhupada had these devotees reading for him because he liked to churn the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So we have 700 verses, let's say more or less, all of them, most of them are 4 lines, so you can multiply thousands of words. But Prabhupada in the Vrindavana Bhajan book, he writes the mantra of perfection. Have you heard that one? The mantra of perfection. You know which is the mantra of perfection? Anyone has heard? Anyone has come across it? Except my wife, because I know she heard it 100 times. Prabhupada explains that the mantra of perfection is not pronounced by Krishna. It's pronounced by Arjuna. And what is that mantra? Karishye Bachanam Tava. He says, I will do what you ask me to do. That is the mantra of perfection. He calls it like that. My spiritual master, Srila Jayapataka Maharaj, he translated and commented on that book. So this is the mantra of perfection. That what Lord Nityananda wants, right? He went and got beaten up, right? By Jagai Madai. How many of us have got beaten up in our efforts to preach? Maybe chased. We were chased in South America when we started by the police and others. And I'm sure here, because I know I've read also the story of Kurma Prabhu, Transcendental Adventure, yeah? Many devotees regularly will get beaten up by the police and taken Kurma and others, taken to jail and things like that. But the point is that Lord Nityananda is here, he expanded his devotees, so they are teaching us how to surrender unto him. So what is my role in this movie? Right? What can I do for him? How can I help him in his mission? Huh? So that's why Prabhupada explains, Karishye Vachanam Tava. Yeah, I have my doubts, I'm fallen, so many things. We know all that. But what are we going to do? Karishye Vachanam Tava. That's what Arjuna tells Krishna at the end of the Gita. I will do what you tell me to do. Right? And to make it simple, what Lord Chaitanya came to do is to expand the Sankirtan movement. He told Nityananda, go and expand it in West Bengal, etc. And then he told who? Haridas to come with him, right? And then that's how the Jagai Madai pastime happens. And then he goes on like that. Then eventually the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shyamananda Pandit, they were the first traveling Sankirtan party, right? And then they went and the books got stolen. It's like a whole pastime. And it goes on like that to emphasize the importance of preaching. And then we have the Acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who re-inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. He passed it down to his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who passed the baton of preaching to Srila Prabhupada, and here we are. That's the long story short. So, yes, wonderful to read all these pastimes, but the point is, or the reason or the purpose of this, the outcome of this is that we need to get inspired to do something. What am I doing? Just waiting for prasada, in my case. Yeah, looking for a comfortable place to live, like that. So that's the idea of Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's the Amrita. That's the nectar. That's the immortal nectar of Lord Chaitanya's pastime. Manifested by his close associate and expansion of Sri Nityananda Prabhu and his devotees. So we stop here because I know you get cursed if you don't finish on time. So we have time for just a quick question, if anything. Matei? No, wrong person.
Because it seems like it's very promoted to think, oh, I'm nothing, I'm Nidyananda, I'm in Lalicha, I'm doing nothing, I'm just, but it doesn't seem objective. Like, for example, you said, what am I doing? I'm looking for a place to live, I'm thinking of Krishna. Well, that's human survival. You need a home, you need to eat.
Yeah.
But you're doing a lot because you're preaching and you seem to know the philosophy quite well, so you're helping others to, learn the philosophy and understand what they're doing. And also when we read the Bhagavatam, like we say, we should be humble and praying souls. So it seems like this humility thing came from like a few hundred years ago, but when you read the Bhagavatam, people are very aware of what they are.
True.
Like for example, when Narada Muni comes to talk to Dasa, he tells, oh, you've done this, you've done that. Dasa doesn't say, no, I do nothing, I just think of it, He said, yeah,
but
right, I've done all that. So what I'm trying to ask is that sometimes it seems like
practical.
it doesn't seem real. Like for example, if you're good at talking about the philosophy and you say, no, I'm nothing, then it doesn't seem objective. It seems like a false thing. And it's like a trend, within every temple I've been, it's like, oh no, I'm nothing. But you're doing something. Like for example, I can be outside doing all the things, but I'm here serving Krishna or being part of this Prabhupada's mission. So could you elaborate on that, how to be more realistic without falsely humble?
We are instruments. Krishna tells Arjuna, Nimitra Baba Savyasya Chin. Just become an instrument. And my regional secretary, the person that first trained us, he used to say, if you're a hammer, be a hammer. Like whatever you are, be that for Krishna. But the feeling, the internal feeling is, I am useless. I mean, Prabhupada said that. Prabhupada signed his first prayer when he arrived in America. How does he sign? The most insignificant beggar. So the feeling, the internal feeling is necessary, but that doesn't mean that you can become a king or a great acharya like Prabhupada did. You know? In fact, Prabhupada wanted 10 million, what? Acharyas. So where are the 10 millions? You know? Now even the word, it's like, oh, acharya. He's like, you know, we're a bit traumatized. But he wanted everyone. Not only the big sannyasis or these, and everyone. Everyone. So the big ask is there. And we can hide. I hear what you're saying, and it's true. Sometimes we can hide in that fake humility. Oh, I'm nothing. No, Prabhu, no, I cannot. You know, no, it's not like that. Prabhupada wanted us to do something. Lord Nityananda wanted us to do something. That's why his pastimes are there. So the question is, what can I do? You know, and actually the answer, that's what Prabhupada called the mantra of perfection. I will do what you want me to do. So let's go out and do what we are meant to do for Krishna in association with devotees. That is the thing. But the feeling should be there. And Prabhupada always said, you know, I'm just an instrument of my Guru Maharaj. I have done nothing. But then at the end, we can read in Prabhupada's latest pastimes, you know, he was in Rishikesh, right? When he got sick, and then he said, no, let's go back because, you know. And I remember we were in Rishikesh and we were reading those pastimes. It was incredible. There was a letter that arrived from the Supreme Court in America, New York, something like that, where the devotees have won the court case. And they have established Krishna consciousness as a bona fide religion. Okay? Because the devotees were harassed for years and they wanted to stop them. And then they said, Krishna consciousness is a bona fide religion. Right? And Prabhupada is feeling unwell, Tamal Krishna Maharaj next to him, Bhakti Charu Maharaj and others serving him. And Prabhupada, you know, they were reading the letter and he says, read again. 2-3 times, he says, read again, that part, read again. And then Prabhupada said, I have won the war. Huh? You know, he came, in Bhagavad Gita twice he said, this is a war against Maya. So he came for that. He says, now I can die in peace because I won the war. He said that. You know? So Prabhupada came with that intention. But, you know, I mean, this is just to inspire us to think, okay, we're enjoying the beautiful, sunny Australian weather. That's me, right? And the beaches and everything is so beautiful. But is that all in all? Or can I do something else? Just to, you know, we can, every one of us can do. Take one, my Guru Maharaj always says, take one person as your responsibility and save him or her. You know, save yourself, of course. Imagine if each one of us say, okay, I'll take care of this person. I'll help this person. And then our movement will double immediately. I don't care whatever they do. These people are like that. Just take my prasadam. Eat and run. No. That's not what Lord Nityananda wants. But thank you so much for your time and your attention. Feel inspired to be here. Beautiful temple. Maybe this is the main holy place in Australia. Amazing. Srila Prabhupada ki, Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Lord Nityananda, Lord Premanandi.